Well, hello everyone, and welcome once again our next part in the series. My name is David Burrows, and this is Live with David. And we jump all over the planet, but I always seem to keep coming back to my hometown. I like to include everybody, keeping it local as possible, but the whole planet is one big place now. But this week we are talking from my hometown here in Sarnia, Ontario, Canada, and I thank you all for joining us. And wherever you're watching us from, make sure you prepare yourselves for your comments. And if you like, you can at some point be able to even come on this broadcast in front of your webcam and talk to our guests here tonight. And we ask that you please take time to share the link around, help us get some attention and get some engagement going on here. Tonight, we're talking about Jackson Pool. And for those of you who live in the Lambton County area will know, probably quite familiar with the discussion that's been going on. Jackson Pool is closed. And, well, there's a lot of different opinions going on about what should be done. Should we rebuild it? Should we tear it down and build new? Should we do nothing at all and just spend our money elsewhere in the city? There's lots of different things to discuss, and that's going to be our main focus here tonight. And you'll get a chance to talk to our guests. We also invite you to please come over to our Facebook page. This has been shared in a lot of different places, but if you want your comments to be seen or heard, the best place to watch it is on our Facebook page at the Video Show Network on Facebook. And you can also watch us at our website, tvsn.ca, and click on Live with David. So we want to be positive and productive here tonight, and that's the full intention, to get different. There's more than one side of the coin here tonight, and that's what we're going to focus on. There's many different people involved, and yesterday Sarnia City Council had their regular council meeting, and some discussion was put out there, and we'll get into that as well. But first, I would like to bring on someone who has been somewhat of a leading force, or has created a group. There's some local citizens who have said, save Jackson Pool. We're willing to raise money. We're willing to do whatever it takes, and whatever that might look like. So our friend Darren Nesbit is out there in the waiting room, and we're going to bring him on here tonight. Hello, Darren.
Hi. How are you tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. And you?
I can't complain.
Good. Thanks so much for your time here tonight. I know that you're certainly passionate about what we're talking here, or what we're talking about here tonight, and saving Jackson Pool, which I believe was it was built a long time ago. Forgive me, I don't have the exact date. Do you remember how long?
It was built in 66.
66. Okay, yeah. So quite some time. So it's older than me.
Older than me.
And what's your reason for jumping into this and saying and diving in, so to speak, as to save Jackson Pool?
Well, I grew up in that neighborhood. I frequented Jackson Pool a lot as a child, and it's a necessary component to live in Sarnia is swim lessons. We need pools because we are a beach community, and I want the younger children to be safe, so they should learn how to swim the first few times.
Right. So I guess my next question is, if it was closed because of repair or for lack of activity in the pool? What do you see the reason as it being closed for?
Can you repeat that? My phone's being stupid, Dave.
Oh yeah, sure, no problem. I say it was closed, so I think the main reason was for repair. And, I can appreciate, I went to Jackson Pool. I went to the beaches too. And we, like you just sort of stated, that we are kind of a beach community as well. So is there still a need in that area? And what's that look like? How do we know that there's still a need there?
Well, I guess it would come down to the city council study they're going to do in September to see if there is a need for that demographics in that area. But I believe that a city our size should have more than one pool that's always at capacity and stuff. Right. So it's like the kids need a place to swim. People need a place to swim. Like, save the Jackson Pool. Now that I've seen the numbers, it's like the first numbers I seen was like $167,000. Where now it's up to $581,000.50, where it's like, okay, maybe you want to invest the money to save Jackson Pool, but I don't understand why they just don't build a new one on that site, because it would probably be a lot cheaper.
Right. Okay. So fair enough. And that's kind of, I mean, that's an astounding number without
Yeah.
really even knowing what that all entails. But it doesn't even include like, washroom facilities
The
and other things that,
washrooms.
and upkeep and all that sort of stuff. So, what about like the upkeep? So let's say it goes through, and whether it's, let's just forget the dollar amount for just a moment and say whether they rebuild it or build a new one. What about the upkeep cost of that? What does that look like, and is that viable?
The city of Sarnia had two working pools, Jackson Clue, before in our past. So why can't
Yep. Okay, Darren's frozen there for just a moment. So Darren, I don't know if you can still hear me, but we'll take you out and we'll bring you back in just a moment. And that's why we have more than one guest going on here tonight. And I'll just lead right into our next guest who's here. And she was approached by the group and is showing her support for the group. And I know she will have lots to say. She's a city councilor here in Sarnia as well. We're going to bring Cindy Scholten, who's going to join us next as a guest. And here she comes. Good evening, Cindy.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks so much for being here.
You're welcome. I'd like to jump right in on a point that you two were discussing, if you don't mind.
Sure, go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
I really liked what Darren was saying. He was acknowledging the fact that, the city has numbers, the real numbers, but at the same time, he thought that it would be cheaper, much cheaper, he said, just to rebuild a new pool in the same spot. But just because there's a hole in the ground does not mean it's going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be a good idea. That's maybe what we do, because from the feedback we've had so far that you've seen from the community, people still want a pool, but they don't want that old pool from the 60s. They
Right.
want a 25-meter pool, competitive swimming pool. So that plus the accessible needs, et cetera, it is going to cost a lot of money. Just because we put it in the same location does not mean it's going to be cheaper at all.
Right. So are you suggesting too then that so your position is we need something, but not necessarily in, like, it could be in a different location in the city?
Well, no, I think that's part of the voice of the people as well right now. They still want a pool in that location.
Okay.
It's central. Their kids can go there without, needing a car or transportation. And I wanted the pool last year, and for some reason it just was real quiet, and too bad this group wasn't around last year. But it's great that they're here now, and they contacted me early on to try to support them. And I think it's great because the community, if they want something really bad, they've got to fight for it. And sometimes they have to help assist with the fundraising for it.
Right.
So
well,
if
and that's fair.
happening-
That goes back to the president of the United States a long time ago. Ask not, right? What
Yeah.
can you do to help and jump in? And so you're I'm glad you brought that part of it up, because I believe we all have a cause, we all have something we believe in. Usually it's more than one thing, and I think most of us are willing to contribute to something positive. But when it comes to money, things change. When money's involved. If someone were to donate to the group or something, like, what does that look like? Are they going to be a nonprofit organization, or is there an umbrella at the city that can help with that? How does that work?
Well, that's what's really special about this group, is that usually as a counselor, you hear a lot of people what they want, but they don't want to pay for it, and they don't want their taxes to go to it. They just want it. So here we have a group saying, okay, city, we hear you. It's an old pool. It needs money. It needs lifeguards. We have to find employment. We have to find the lifeguards, because that's another problem. But they're willing to knock on the doors, and they've already done some legwork to try to get some support. So
Right.
I think they're willing to bring some money forward, which is great. So I think what the city can do is work with them, with the plan, realize some real costs, and hopefully with our new sponsorship and advertising plan, help with those costs. So I mean, right now, the city council asked staff last year. We were informed, and this is what I think confuses the community, because last year we said $167,000 is what we need to replace the liner. However, we knew once you take that liner down, and we have to bring in a proper team, people that do that job, really inspect the pool and let us know if it's safe, what the condition is, We
Well,
really should have been doing that
yeah,
already. So that's why the costs are where they're. It didn't just all of a sudden jump up. So council knew it would be a lot more than what this liner
right.
was. But I
Let me
think
just
it's
stop
kind of
you there for a minute before I heard something in that comment there about like, so this got let go. Like Jackson Pool started deteriorating and deteriorating. Why did we let that happen? Or
I think ask council. I mean, when part of the reason why I wanted to run, I know that the past council was really, really focused on zeroing down the city's debt, pay
right,
down the debt, and really, showcase that. But meanwhile, our infrastructure is falling apart. We have major problems. I mean, this is the first year that we were able to put shoreline erosion protection in the capital budget. So
right.
if you look at the budget, we have pathetic dollars in for the Sarnia Library. That's not a place children want to hang out. There's nowhere for youth to go. I saw a drug deal happen right in front of the library in the middle of the day. So you've got the library falling apart, bridges, roads, pools, bleachers at parks. I'm a baseball mom. All the bleachers are gone because they're unsafe. So if you're only focused on zero debt and you're not looking at new creative ways to build the revenue, what are you going to do? You're going to let things fall apart. So I think that was a mistake on past council. I'm just going to say it.
Okay, sounds good. Well, you're never shy
Anyway,
about saying what you think, Cindy, and
that's what Matt Mitro says to me.
well, and I welcome, I welcome and I respect everybody's position on council
As do I.
and staff, and well, we have to, right? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
but I find okay, so let's talk about like your focus and I shouldn't just say you, I'll generalize.
It's okay.
A lot of the people that I'm hearing, and we're going to hear from here tonight, I keep hearing the kids. Now, that's great. Love kids. They're important. They're our future, all that stuff. What about the elderly? What about, like, we're talking, there's Strangway Center right there, and then there's Germain Park right there, and there's a lot of mixed ages going on there. So instead of a pool just for the kids, is there something that we could build for everybody involved? Because I do hear, and I heard at council last night, a point was made up about elderly and accessibility issues as well. So and this is one of those things where we try to include everybody. Everybody's got to be included, and that makes it. And I don't say that with being whatever that sounded like, but sometimes facilities. It's not always for everybody. Like right. I don't go to certain things because that's for girls only or that's for kids only or whatever. So I'm stumbling now, but I guess what I'm trying to say, should we be looking at something just for the kids, or does it make more sense financially and accessibly to do something that fits everybody, and we're open more than 2 months of the year?
Well, you've got 2 points in there. So one is about seniors, retirees versus young adults and youth. And I've been sitting on the age-friendly steering committee, and that has been, it's all about encompassing
I'm on that committee
all ages. That's right. We managed to meet at one meeting, I think.
Yeah.
And so that's great. However, yes, Strangway's right there. And in part of the report showed a lot community collaboration willing to take in swimmers. YMCA, I think pathways. But you know what? People don't want to go indoors for a swim, and they don't want to pay memberships. They want to go to an open pool that's outside in a yard. And yeah, I think there's a lot in this city for seniors, older adults. You don't have to be retirees, things to enjoy. So the community feedback we've been getting, I like the idea of if we just think pool for a minute, you have teenagers, and I don't mean little kids, but maybe 10 to 16. Then you have young adults that are in competitive swimming. So we don't have a pool like that that's open in public. If we did, boom, maybe you see the usage go up like crazy. But you also made another point about maybe if we had something else. So the staff report, I meant what I said last night. It was a really great option to have, really creative. The splash pad, we have to be careful when we say that. We automatically put a vision in our head of little tiny tots with the buckets of water going down over their head, like to come see. But the splash pads that we had as images in our report last night were great examples of great, big, large, modern gathering place splash pads from larger cities. that I think would be a lot of fun and really unique for this community, no matter what age you are. If you're going for a walk and you're hot and you just walk through there, then everything's great.
Well, yeah, and I was going to say, like, I mean, and let's look at. So we have a splash pad already. I mean, Tecumseh Park is there, and Tecumseh's beautiful. Donation. However, there were donations from a family that really supported that.
Yes, the whole splash pad,
right?
Yeah,
splash pad, and it's wonderful. And Tecumseh Park, for the most part, is a good spot. That's another show. But yeah, so it's there, and people are collecting there, and the splash pads are fun. And there's a small fee to go in, and I get that. It is nice though to have something like that where I think what I'm hearing, and I probably haven't done as much research or surveying as you have or council has, but what I'm hearing in conversations is there's a social aspect to this as well as a community. I know Forest has a splash pad, right? And different cities I've been in have splash pads, and London has a nice one. And it's a social activity. It's kind of like sort of like meeting at the coffee shop, but for everybody, and let's go hang out. Hey, let's go down to the splash pad. So is that something, is that important in all of this too? Or is
I think absolutely. So when Dan and Darren approached me early on to join them on their Save Jackson Pool group and help out, one of the things they mentioned was whether we had the ability to reopen the pool, to have like an arbor, whatever you call it, and a gathering place to be social. I remember when I was a kid, I learned to swim at Tecumseh, and even though they had a tall fence, there's that hill and that grass hill, and my folks would sit on top of the hill and be outside with me and watch. So that's one of the things that they want. So, that would be an extra cost as well. If we reopen some sort of pool, then you want to pay for the gazebo and the gathering space. Right. However, the report we had from council was a giant open concept gathering place. So that was the perfect name for it. I don't know if you want to start talking about that now. So there's pros and cons for the pool versus this new gathering place.
Well, let's I do want to talk about it, but before we do, and I'm just, so we keep hearing money in there.
Yeah.
Right. And as you kind of mentioned earlier, nobody likes paying taxes to begin with. Let's be honest. However, I don't mind paying my taxes if it's for a good thing, right? And there's a cost to running a city the same way there's a cost to running a business, to running your home, right? Mm-hmm. And there's certain things that I don't like paying for, but if I want to own a house, it goes along with it, right? How could this, and I know you can't give me a real accurate number, but how does this affect the taxpayers moving forward in whatever direction it goes, rebuild, renew, whatever?
Well, how all of us will be affected with our tax dollars is whatever we decide to build. If we decide to build anything, then what is the ongoing operational costs? Operational cost means we can't let it fall apart anymore. We can't let the building fall apart. If we have accessibility, change rooms in there, we have to make sure we maintain it. How much staff do we need? How much do we have to pay them? Are there going to be electrical and plumbing issues that we need to make sure we maintain every year? So then that's going to have to be put into our capital budget as a new budget line.
Right. You see there, thanks for that answer, Cindy. You see Jennifer McCann is joining us here tonight, and she wants to ask, and you kind of already answered that, is there money in the future for maintenance in the overall scheme of this? And is this feasible to maintain, I guess would be a fair question.
I think at this point we don't know, because it depends on what happens. So if we just reopen Jackson Pool the way that it was, we know what the costs are. Some of them we don't know about the new change room accessibility, asbestos issues, and things like that. So it could probably be squeezed into the budget for next year. But
yeah, and as you know, go ahead. You go ahead. You first.
If we actually are able to give the community what they want and reopen a new pool in the same spot, 25-meter pool, things like that. I would say there's no money in the budget right now for that. So we would really have to maybe strike a subcommittee of council, or just I would keep helping the committee or the Jackson Pool group fundraise, but I would make sure, that's why I asked for a more detailed report from the staff and was very specific about what the community asked for, because we need to know They need to know how much will that cost? How much do they have to fundraise? So if they can
Right.
fundraise the money, I think they would want a commitment from the city that you make sure that you can put it in the budget, the overall budget, and maintain it. So right now, I
Okay.
don't know.
Yeah. Okay. And you can't give an answer based on what you don't know, right? That's a fair
Yeah.
answer too.
Yeah.
And it's so, like many non-for-profits, pick one, whichever one we all support. And I've got Beth Ann patiently waiting for us there. Thank you, Beth Ann. This would be ongoing fundraising, would it not? Like, I mean, if it's going to be maintained and like it, as long as it's there, there's going to be costs involved. And I appreciate, you can charge, $2, $5, whatever that structure looks like at the door to go. But is this going to be ongoing?
Well, I can answer that I've been a decade-long member now of the Seaway Kiwanis Club, and they are a massive #1 project every year financially is always the Seaway Kiwanis Children's Animal Farm.
Right.
So I wouldn't say necessarily yes. I think if the community works really hard, let's say, for example, it costs $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, I don't know, to give them the pool they want, the change room they want, the gathering place, sitting area, who knows? But then what's really helpful is a service club, and they make that their pet project. And every year, maybe they have volunteers to help run it, volunteers trained to help lifeguards. Who knows? Maybe that's their project. Maybe that could be a project that we find. Maybe that's something the city could work hard on through our
Right.
sponsorship plan to find a partner for that. But no, I wouldn't expect the community group that fundraises to continue with the fundraising every year. That wouldn't be fair.
So have we heard of any local groups? Has there been whispers in the hallways of some groups considering it, or is that still? Are we still at too early of a stage to? Is there been any interest expressed from groups? I guess
it's unfortunate that Darren timed out, because when I was meeting with him and Dan at the pool a few weeks ago, they were saying that they did speak to some service clubs and to a few local businesses that said they would be on board. I didn't ask the names, and I wouldn't want to say the names anyway because it's premature. But yeah, apparently there's some excitement out there.
Okay, so all right, so far this is all positive. It's just really
well, it pulls the heartstrings, right? It's a lot easier to fundraise for something that's about kids and family and
well, and there's you're I don't know if you're in my head, but you're leading to my next point there. And this is probably where I'll bring Beth Ann in. Actually, let's bring in Beth Ann Wiersma. She's waiting in the lobby. She's got an attachment, a personal attachment to why she believes Jackson Pool should be saved or rebuilt or whatever. Hello, Beth Ann. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, and I appreciate your patience in there. It's probably good that you're in here. Cindy and I could probably talk for hours. So you've been listening to our conversation, and I want to ask you a couple of questions about what you've been hearing. But first, I was about to lead into the whole emotional thing, and we have emotions involved in situations. What's your emotional attachment to all of this?
I live right in the community where I don't live there currently. For the first 11 years, I lived in Sarnia. I was just around the corner. So my kids came along, and we just walked to the pool. It was our community pool. It was great. Went there for swimming lessons, and my kids have a real attachment to the pool. Last year, my daughter had to take her lessons at the other pool. Right? She was not amused. But it was a great little community gathering place. I think that's a really good point that we've been making about it being a community space. There was never a time that I would sit at the pool and not have someone to connect with, where our kids were in lessons together, or, and they'd be like, oh, this school, where do your kids go? Right. And you'd make connections. And I think that was really important.
Right. Well, I don't think you get any argument about the importance of community and social interaction. let me just play a couple of sides back to some of the things you said. So your daughter had to go to the other pool to come see. I'm assuming you're talking about.
Yes,
so,
it was fine.
Okay, don't take this the wrong way when I ask this question, but I'll say it very directly. So what's the big deal? So you had to go a little further. It's a nice pool. Like, why is that such a big deal?
For my kids, it was a big deal because we were both involved. Both of my kids have been involved with the swimming team, and it was a very active program at Jackson when it was running. And for my son, swimming has turned into his sport.
Yeah.
He's a national level competitor now. Last summer, we drove him all the way out to national competition in Calgary.
That's
so
amazing.
we're quite committed to swimming. So
so he doesn't mind traveling to swim in a pool.
Well,
that's awesome.
Yeah, he swims out of the YMCA now, right? Because that's where the competitive team meets year round. But he got his start there at the Jackson pool. The summertime swim team it's a great little place for kids who are thinking that maybe they like swimming and maybe they ought to try it. Okay. And they do. And, from there, they might move on to the more competitive team that meets all year round. And some don't. Some just, use it to improve their swimming stroke and so forth. But that's a good reason to have it too.
Yeah. Okay. So, but it hasn't, Jackson Pool closing and not being there has not stopped him from being able to pursue his passion for swimming. It's a sentimental attachment.
Hasn't.
Or are you saying it's crippling others that might be considering it, or is there still opportunity there for those who want to pursue something like that?
Well, there are two levels of swim team that meet year round here in Sarnia, right, out of the YMCA, and one is more of a recreational type. I think for some people, it's the financial commitment, right, and trying to figure out, well, is my child really going to do this for the whole year, and am I willing to pay for that, right? Yeah. The
Ballet
nice thing
lessons,
about the summertime swim team, the summertime swim team was so fantastic because I think it was like $50 or $60, and your child could swim 3 times a week and be trained coaches who were helping them improve their strokes, right? And all those coaches were volunteer, so the city wasn't paying for those, right? So it was a pretty fantastic thing we had going, and I think what's disappointing about it for me as a parent, I mean, it's not so much for my kids as swimmers, but for me as a parent, was when the decision was made to close Jackson Pool, the idea was that the programming would move over to Tecumseh, right? Fine. We moved over, we finished our lessons there, but no plans were put in place for that swim team. And it was a pretty vital in 2015, just prior to the pool's closing. It was almost to the point where we had to book additional time in the pool because we had so many kids out for that swim team.
Okay. So was there lack of participation? I appreciate what you're sharing with us, and I think it's fantastic that your son's gone on to do great things, and the sentimental attachment and the different opportunities that were given there. And you talk about cost in there, like I think you mentioned about $50-$60 to do that. Now that was a long time ago, so obviously, like gas prices go up, they typically don't go down. I just had to sneak that in there, but prices go up, they don't go down, right? There's always cost of living, cost of doing, cost of hydro, all that stuff. So how much would you be willing to pay if it was if you were starting again right now and your family was interested in swimming? How much of a financial importance would that be for say a new family wanting to? Because there's limitations, single moms, single dads, there's all different sorts of financial departments out there. How far do we go before we have to say, because there's a part of this that's got to be treated like a business, I think. How far do we go before we say, I don't know, it's too bad, unfortunate, bummer, but I guess it's just not going to work. So now we adapt, we go to a different location, and we take the bus if we can. Sorry.
Yeah.
and I think you know what I'm saying, Beth Ann. How do you respond to that? Or Cindy, either one of you jump in there and answer that.
I think for, my big concern is this swim team, of course. For swimming lessons, it's fine, right? I mean, we have a pool for swimming lessons, but there's nothing that can work currently for a summertime swim team, unless we move to an indoor pool. And it just didn't seem like the city was willing to take the steps to make that happen.
Okay.
I'm not sure why, but Tecumseh cannot be adapted with lane ropes, which are necessary for teams. So,
Okay.
I mean, I get it. When my kids took lessons at Jackson Pool, there were times when they were in semi-private lessons, even though I had enrolled them in classes that were intended for up to 10 students, right? But they were one of two, right? That did happen.
Okay.
It was great, but
So
I
why?
recognize that.
And
From a cost perspective. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry. I'm trying to remember if I even asked this earlier. So let's talk YMCA for a minute. So huge pool.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the holdback from participating there? It would seem like at that level of swimming you're talking about, it would be a great facility. I've heard mention of, Pathways has a large swimming pool.
Sure.
There's so is it just because it's
I think it's the membership issue.
Yeah, okay. All right, fair enough. So cost.
Yeah.
But does the YMCA not
right,
have does YMCA not have adaptive membership rates?
I'm not aware. Like, in order for my son to participate in the swim team, he just has to pay a full membership, right? That's just how it is. In addition to the tuition that we pay for his swimming, which ends up being a great deal because he qualifies for so much. But that's his problem. It becomes very expensive in the end, right?
Okay. Beth, I thank you so much for your time. And just to stay with us here for a minute, we've got Rob Hardwood, who is the Director of Parks and Rec, in the lobby. We'll get him on here in just a moment. But Jennifer McCann, thank you, Jennifer, for engaging with us here. That's what we like to see. And for those of you who are watching, come on over to our Facebook page, the Video Show Network. If you comment on a different page or spot, we won't see your comments, and they are important to us. Is the plan that staff brought to council available for people to see on the city website so we can get an idea of what the splash pad would have looked like? Cindy Schulten, can you answer that for us?
Yes, it is. So I think I posted that link on the Save Jackson Pool page. However, it's page 101 of 500,000 agenda pages. So maybe what we can do is when maybe 600 pages, but when Rob comes on, we can ask him, maybe what we can do is just have the city pull out that report and put it on a special page on the city website so that it's a quick link, because I really want the community to actually see what I saw in those images that are way different than the little kid splash pad, even though it's gorgeous, that we do have to come see.
Okay, fair enough. Beth, I'm going to take you out of the equation here for a moment, and stick around if you want, and we'll have you back in. And Beth, we can still see you. And of course, if you want to come back in, just use the chat there so that I know you're ready. Rob Hardwood is in the lobby here, and I think he's ready to join us and have some conversation. And we'll just give him the 3, 2, 1. I think he's ready. There he is. Rob Hardwood, how are you tonight?
Fantastic, Dave. How you doing? Hey, Cindy, how you doing?
Hi, good to see you. Not in a suit.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. Not being in a suit for a change.
Yeah.
Rob, I appreciate your time. I know you're a super busy guy, and appreciate you taking time out here tonight. So you've been listening to this conversation as we began, and I know you and I have had some different conversations about what's going on with Jackson Pool, and just so people understand before we get into it, What is your job here? How does this look like for you? How do you get to react or not react to this?
Well, Dave, to be very honest with you, what our job is just to bring the facts to council and allow them to have enough information to make an educated decision on what's best moving forward. So for us, it's certainly not our place to take an emotional stance on anything. Personally, I can tell you, Jackson Pool meant a lot to me in my youth as well. I took swimming lessons there as well. I, spent lots of time. As a matter of fact, I was operations supervisor of that pool for over 20 years as well. And I can tell you that over that period of time, we did take good care of the pool because honestly, we have pretty stringent inspections that take place from the Electrical Safety Authority and the health unit for the Public Swimming Pool Act. So everything was kept up to snuff. We got to realize that this pool is 51 years old, and I can't imagine there's too many backyard pools that are 51 years old and still working. This right. Being a larger pool and being so much deeper, it does have certainly different issues with hydraulic pressure from the ground and everything. So over time, I just want to kind of get it out there that, in my opinion, we've done a good job of taking care of that. And I applaud the staff that worked on that for that period of time. We've been very fortunate, and it hasn't been very costly for us to keep that pool for such a period of time. So I'm quite happy with the efforts that staff made on that. Now, back to your actual question. Honestly, for us, again, we can't make emotional recommendations or emotional decisions. What we have to do is study the facts. We have to provide the data so good people like Cindy can make a good, honest decision based on the right information. So the information that we brought forward is really respective of what we've been viewing for the last several years of operation to got us to the point to where we are right now. We're at a point where, okay, the pool is way past its life cycle. 51 years is past its life cycle. We've done exceptionally well. We're happy with that. Now the decision is this still something that is fits the demographic of today, or is it time to change the space? That's the hard decision that council will have to make.
Right, right.
Can I comment on what Rob said?
Certainly you can.
Thanks. So I like, it's good to know that we have those stringent policies that you have to follow and that staff were taking care of the pool. But it maybe would have been helpful too then last year if we had a report saying that, because the report that we've just received that we went over shows that over the last 10 years, council has directed monies to go to Tecumseh. Council has updated Tecumseh Pool. Council has added the ramp, and Tecumseh is accessible. And it seems like council keeps doing things for Tecumseh, but nothing was in there about Jackson Pool. So maybe if we had a different report last year saying, okay, this pool is past its life cycle, so we should think about closing it. But regardless, to me, the onus is on council. So last year when the report first came to us about the liner, I wanted to amend the motion that says the pool will only close for 2016 and will reopen in 2017. So that didn't work. And then again at budget time, I see that council, I think, takes the easy way out when it comes to, okay, what are we going to do to keep the taxes down? Let's look at the things we don't really need. The animal farm, Jackson Pool, the showmobile. And then Canada Day celebrations, free city bus transit for people, New Year's Eve. And then council says, okay, out, out, out. And again, I tried to say, hey, wait a minute. What about that showmobile that council's been talking about? At first, they said
right.
The Blue Water Power Corporation, their dividends were supposed to go to saving the showmobile. Now all of a sudden we have no showmobile. They just keep throwing them out of the budget.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay. We're talking Jackson, and I appreciate what you're saying. We're talking Jackson Pool, but I hear you, and I think most people hear what you're saying. However, back to Rob's point, and I like the fact I've always said I'm going to tell a joke here. You're going to lighten things up.
Sorry.
Do you know what? No, it's fine. No, you're fine. Do you know what the one great thing about lawyers are?
Uh-oh.
They don't have an emotional attachment to the situation. And I think that's what's a little bit of what's happening here. Just observing, and I don't just mean here tonight, just conversations I've had with people. The emotion gets involved it's kind of like, like we hate punishing our kids, but we have to. And as parents, we have to remove the emotion. And like Rob said, their job is to not make those decisions. It's to get the facts, collect the facts as thorough as they can be. Because I'm sure, like Rob even said, he grew up at Jackson Pool. There could be some emotion in there, but it has to be removed in order to make logical decisions. And we hear people all the time, especially going to council, why don't they make logical decisions? Why don't we make logical decisions? And then we hear, but this and that. What about the time when? So how do we, Rob, I'll ask you the question. Then I've got a question from some people in the audience watching here. Cynthia Ann's got a question, but how do you remove that emotion? That's got to be hard.
Most definitely it is, but honestly, it's a matter of understanding what your job is, and I know exactly what our role is, and our role is to make good information available to council, to do in-depth studies. It is to watch the trends, and it is to, again, not make recommendations based on emotions, but make recommendations based on fact. And quite truthfully, obviously, I'm the director of Parks and Recreation. I'm all about active and fit communities. Like, come on. So, truthfully, I want everybody to put down their computers and their video games at this moment and go outside for a walk, which is what I'll be doing right after.
Except I wouldn't have a job anymore, Rob.
Okay, sorry. Except for Dave's show.
I know what you mean, though. Exactly. Let's what's that old commercial? Participation, right? I hear you. So that's what about what about response to what Cindy said about that staff report from last year?
That obviously I didn't write that report, but concur with the findings that are in it. And indeed, actually, Tecumseh Pool has had that ramp for, since it was built, actually. So that accessibility component of that has been there. That hasn't happened over the last 10 years. With Jackson Pool, for instance, there was money that was invested there. I guess it was 20 years ago that we put in a new filtration system there. So as things went along and as equipment failures were starting to take place, then, we had to cripple or Band-Aid ourselves through seasons to get on to the next season and actually make the replacements and keep the thing safe to be able to fit all the stringent criteria that's involved in all the inspection processes. So, money has been invested there. Now, I'll tell you one thing that all of this negative has been helping us with in the last couple of years is that Parks and Rec is starting to feel the love. And quite honestly, we've had council for quite a number of years that were very tuned into having 0% increases in taxes, and therefore to be able to do that, then you can't be making further investments in any of your assets. So as it has turned out, we were able to keep things going, but we weren't able to reinvest and to replace. So here we are at a time now that everybody's starting to understand that Parks and Rec does have great value, and I really appreciate that. So us moving forward, I'm loving all the attention that we're getting, and I'm loving that everybody is noticing that we matter this much. So these are good conversations, and I applaud you, Dave and Cindy, for bringing something like this to the forefront. I'm very happy that we're going to go through a further process. I'm glad that we're going to have a public consultation. I want that to be public consultation that involves everyone. I mean, we're a large community here. We're 70,000 people in this community, so everybody needs to have a say in what's right. And I'm not a real big attention seeker, but at this point in time, I'm pretty happy Parks and Rec is getting the attention we are.
Well, and kudos to you and your department. And I will say back to you, my friend, it comes from some great leadership in that department from you, and lots of people involved. And
it's a team effort.
And absolutely, and this is these kind of things here, where people like yourself and Cindy are willing to come and put themselves forefront here. We've got questions coming out, and people are just getting used to this format. But I think it brings out the transparency and all that stuff we talk about.
We're real people. We're real taxpayers.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes,
that's right.
We all are.
So thanks for that, Rob. I'm going to go out to our questions here. We're going to start with Cynthia Ann, and then I've got something from Katie Horvath. Will the city be seeking any government funding to assist with the cost of a new pool or splash pad, or I'm assuming whatever direction they go?
I can tell you very honestly, Dave, that everything we are constantly scanning for new grant opportunities. We are constantly looking for opportunities for additional funding. Obviously, we all know that the city tax coffers aren't going to be able to pay for all the improvements that we want. So that's why we're actively out there seeking sponsorship and collaborations with community groups. We've got a major capital fundraising campaign on at Sarnia Arena right now. Consider this a plug.
Yeah, sure.
we're struggling somewhat with, but we're very hopeful that we're going to reach that target. But it's community involvement that's going to make the difference on all of these things. So your question is, would we be actively seeking funding? Absolutely. When we talk about Jackson Pool, we've actually already begun having conversations with community groups. So we have regular conversations with all service clubs to try and get ahead of the curveball on that one, because they are always projecting for a year or two in advance as well. So
sure,
yeah.
That's right. So well, and that's fantastic. I mean, let's talk community again, right? When people want things to happen, they really can make them happen if they pull together for the right reasons and everybody contributes. So that's fantastic to keep that going. Now, Katie Horvath is out here. She's asking about the report. About the capacity. She said she read that Jackson Pool was at 52%, and she's wondering how many people that translates to.
Well, capacity of the pool is 175. So I think what she might be actually referring to is 52% capacity on swimming lessons.
Yeah, so I've got here
swimming session. Yeah.
Yeah, public open swim times averaging 17.5% capacity.
That was public open swims. Yeah, there were a lot of times, and very honestly, I mean, there's no reason for us to lie about these numbers. They're for real numbers. Quite often, there were 6 kids in the pool at a public swim session with 6 lifeguards on duty.
That doesn't make financial sense, right?
It's tough for us because we're just trying to sustain the operation. We're trying to do it as efficiently as possible, and things like that I've got to bring to someone's attention. We can't just continue to operate in that fashion. That's certainly, we build a brand new pool, we probably have a lot of people coming back out, but it might be temporarily as well. And that's the problem. The demographics are changing. It's up to us to really study what demographics are and where things are moving and where the trends are. Because if we're talking about building a new pool, we're talking about something that we need to sustain for the next 30 to 40 years. We need to know we're going to have the demographics to support that.
Yeah. And you
say about usage.
What's that?
Sorry, guys. I just wanted to comment on usage because we've been talking about that for a while. And so council's role, and I believe it's my personal role when I make every decision to make sure that it's the best decision for everyone involved in the city of Sarnia, not just one group or one minority. It has to be good for everyone. And Councillor McDougall and you guys made some good points about the demographics, and there's not so many young people, and schools are amalgamating, and that's happening. So if we do rebuild a pool, I don't think we need to rebuild the same one we had or another version of Tecumseh. So we should be encompassing young adult swim teams. Maybe from what I heard from Beth, we could have dedicated times or introduce new small fees for swim teams, because let the schools and the daycares and little kids go to Tecumseh. Let's incorporate different youth and younger adults for if we do this new pool. But we have to be realistic about what our usage numbers are. And then the community needs to be prepared for that cost-wise too if we rebuild. So
that is a very wise and intuitive point, Cindy. I have to say that, we all get caught up in the emotions of our kids swam there. And it was so important to us when we all had families of 4 to 6 kids. Things are changing now. So it's an opportunity, really. To me, I see it as an opportunity. So if we find that we can better fit today's demographic and we can find a better use for that, then kudos to all of us. And the way that we're going to do that is when we get together publicly and we have a consultation and we hear from everybody in the community exactly what they would like to see. We want good spaces in this public, and we want people to get out and be active and fit. So if we can find something that's going to accomplish that,
right? That has that effect on it too, would it not? At least when these things are, when we're building these things, these new facilities, and what we're building a city too. We want a reason for people to come to Sarnia, right?
That's exactly what my focus is always in the back of my mind. Like what's stopping us from blocking so many nights for adult swim? Like Darren made a point. The city our size should be able to sustain 2 pools, but we have to make one pool different and unique from the other pool. And I'm always thinking about quality of life. So we need to support our industry that are trying to bring in new business. We need to attract new residents and their families. So what can we provide for quality of life, which is one of our main focuses for our new strat plan. So to be able to have that amenity and offer it to them, to me, that's important. It's just as important as having a safe road, a new park, shoreline not eroding. To me, those are all aspects that we need to keep in consideration for providing good quality of life for our current residents and attracting new.
Yeah. Rob, Katie is responding there. She wants to be clear. She didn't think you were lying about numbers.
No, I see that, and I didn't take it that way, Katie, to be honest with you. Not for your comment.
And this is great. This is great. Once again, that I like the fact that, and for those of you who are watching or maybe shy, to make your comments, please, and share with us. And if you have a webcam, you want to come on and talk to Rob or Cindy or anybody, that's what this is for. And this is a new public forum that we're able to share and have these positive, productive conversations. So, Katie and everybody else, thanks so much for your participation here.
I'd just like to make a comment about that question with the lying about the numbers. I didn't take it that way that Rob thought that Katie was. However,
I didn't either.
I'm part of this, the online Jackson Pool group, and some comments I see, even though I'm on the group, I don't like her support, saying when I see comments that the city's lying or, we need to, check out those numbers. By all means, check out the numbers and ask questions. But if you want this big, beautiful new pool, it is going to cost. Those aren't the only numbers. It's going to be higher than probably what we saw in the report. So, I mean, we have to be honest. And we have to be factual. And if they want something new, we have to talk about the realities.
I would love a Corvette, but it's not in my budget right now. Well, I mean, really, I know that I say that, but it really comes down to, I was going to make a comment earlier, Rob, you were talking about money and stuff. Like, I know when my MasterCard's maxed out and I got to start paying it. Otherwise, the interest rates catch up with me, and it ended up costing me more. And then I'm borrowing from over here, and then I'll say it, shit starts to get bad, right? And that complicates it more. And then especially in a city, then people start saying, well, why did you? And then it just gets messy, right? So, and I think there's probably some anxiousness out there too. Councils don't always move fast, right? And there's a reason. It's not that it's because, at least I think, trying to do the right thing, be diligent, all that. There's a lot of variables involved to that.
Well,
right?
I don't like what I call fence sitters, Dave. I hate that. Sometimes I can tell you, I'm sitting in that chair and I'm thinking, come on, let's make a decision already.
No,
Jeez.
you never.
No, I would never think that. I don't want. But in this particular case, the reason why I made that motion for public consultation was because I wanted to try to stop. No offense, Rob. You represent the department. I wanted to stop any motion from taking place that would be certainty for a new gathering place, because I just felt like I had so much feedback from the public that they really need to understand, if you want a pool, this is how much it's going to cost. So I think we need another report with those costs, and also compare it to what they haven't seen, your awesome new gathering place option as well. So I just want that compared and talked about. So sometimes, we need a little bit of time. But public consultation for a pool is perfect in the summer. People are hot and they're thinking about pools.
Yeah.
And honestly, sorry, go ahead, Rob.
I was going to say, it really is. And I think that Cindy's hitting some really key points here as well, that obviously what we want to do is have something that is good for everyone. And that's everyone. We can't just look at filling what was there before. When Jackson and Tecumseh Pool were first built, they were the only pools in town. Now there are a lot of other options out there, and people are choosing those. I agree that some of them are little maybe cost prohibitive to some, but there are other options that some people are taking. So therefore, it narrows down on our demographics. And if we look around, we see the number of schools that are closing. For lack of a better term, they have the same feedstock as what we do for our pools, ideally. Yeah. So, there's a reason why schools are closing, because the community is changing. So let's kind of adapt and change along with that. Let's come up with something that's going to just be awesome. That's what
And
we
what's
want.
great about having Rob on your show in this forum, Dave, is because one of the main questions I brought up last night the community wanted to know is, why is the pool at the state it is now? What's been happening to the maintenance over these years? And Rob's been answering that. So great forum, Dave, and great to be able to have open dialogue with you as well, Rob.
I agree. Love Dave's show.
Sean Ryan is out. Sean Ryan's out. Thank you both. I appreciate it. Sean Ryan is out there, and his question is: are there any plans for Germain Arena as well? We'll let you answer that. And Beth, I don't know if are you wanting to come back in? Nod your head yes if you've got something, or are you just waiting? Are you just listening? And if you do, just let me know in the chat box there if you want to come back in. So, what about Germain?
Okay, so there's no solid plans for Germain Arena at this time, no. If you consider the fact that what we're talking about with Jackson Pool and the numbers are dropping, well, that's exactly the same reason why the Germain Arena went down as well. Yes, there were some repairs that are necessary on that building, but again, when a full and thorough study was done by outside consultants, it showed very clearly that we didn't need the expense of operating another arena building. So what are we doing with it? We've been meeting with lots of different groups to try and come up with what would be a proper plan to move forward for that space or for that building. But whatever our plan is, I won't be comfortable recommending that to the good members of council until I can come up with a plan, we can come up with a plan that will sustain its operation. And that's what our role is.
So that's moving. So that's on the board. Then there's things being discussed, and it hasn't. And I think that's again important with these kind of things. Is I think sometimes people, unless we hear it in the news right away, we think sometimes, they're forgetting about it. They're hoping we'll forget about it. It's left over there. There's a few empty buildings around, right? And come on, folks. Our council in our city is honestly here to work for the greater good. I truly believe that. And I'm usually a pretty neutral guy. I'll just say this. Whether you like everybody on council or like everybody who works at City Hall or whether you voted for them or not, collectively, I truly believe, living in Sarnia all my life, the work of the greater good is what's everybody is for. It's just sometimes everybody has different paths trying to get to the same destination. So I think the best thing we can do is to support the people who we have put in there to make decisions, whether we elected them or they got hired, whatever. They're all there for a reason. They didn't just show up one day. And it just I get irritated, right? And Rob will know, too. I just don't like this. The negative really gets under my skin, and I'm like, come on, why would you make these certain comments to say this and that and the other? I've always found if you got a problem with somebody or you're not liking the way it is, the best way to solve the problem? Buy them lunch.
That's a whole other show, Dave. That's a whole other show.
Free lunch every time. Anyway,
I can comment on something that Councillor McDougall said last night. I was shocked and didn't like what I was hearing that she was talking about, turn it into a therapeutic pool for seniors. However, she was making sense about whatever we build has to be sustainable, and she was making sense in a roundabout way, saying that demographics have changed. So just because I might not agree with everything she says does not mean I like some of these nasty comments that were put online about her last night. So I see what you're getting at.
Well,
and just real quick to Germain Arena, that they're working on a Germain Arena master plan. And I've had a lot of community members come to me with different ideas and with questions, and I just bring them over to Rob, and Rob's been really great at sitting down and having meetings with every one of them. So a master plan means you're including all the options and ideas from everybody. So I was just going to
say, she wasn't necessarily against Jackson Pool. She's just saying, if we're going to look at the picture, let's not look at the bottom corner frame of it. Let's look at the whole picture and at least have discussion. And I thought what she said was reasonable and fair. Jake Chersky's out there. And Jake Chersky has great food, by the way, down there in Confed. I can say whatever I want. It's my show. Sell Sarnia to the younger families to bring more youth here, not just retirees, as they thrive in the real estate sales and living of their profits. Is this accurate?
Yes, absolutely. You know what? We have to be really creative and change the tides to what we've been doing. We can't keep doing what we've been doing for 30 years. You know, when I became a counselor, I thought, look at all the different parcels of land that the city owns. Acreages just sitting there empty. Like, what's the point? What is it costing us? What if we sold that for some redevelopment? You know, like the area around Baxter Park, not sell the park, but some of that prime real estate so we can create jobs and more taxes, and let's be futuristic with this city. Let's make some money and attract more families that will hopefully have more babies and grow our tax base.
Awesome. Well, listen, both of you, I know we could probably, well, I know Cindy anyway, we could go another hour. So
You and I
thank
are never at a loss for words either, Dave.
Well, that's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
We've had many a conversation late at night for sure. I thank you both so much and for your time, and I respect you for the efforts that you do at your jobs. And honestly, you didn't have to be here tonight, so thank you for that. And my line's always open, and I know folks pardon me, for those of you who are still watching, I know that these two are open, and if you go to the city website, sarnia.ca, and you can find emails for both of these folks and everybody who works and participates in City Hall. And Beth, who was on here earlier, thank you as well. Darren, I'm sorry we lost you. I think he just had a bad internet connection. So just before we go, it has been an hour, but again, it's my show. Nobody's telling me to shut down. Rob, I'll give you final words, and then I'll give you first final words, and then send it over to you.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Dave. Hey, folks, get involved with your community. If you're interested in making a difference, then get in touch with us. Let's talk. You tell us what you want. And don't be afraid to dig right in and get involved with committees. There's a lot of great things that you can do. There's a lot of great insight that you can offer. And we can be better by us all working together. Buy me lunch, Dave. That's a good one.
Brad Morrison.
We can see Brad's comment.
Yeah, good one for sure. You know what? That's the point. That none of us are here. None of us are here as dictators. All of us are here to try and make a better community. I love this community. I've lived here my entire life and intended to live here the rest of my life. And I want good things here as well. But we got to make good decisions that are going to sustain us into the future. And it's important that we think about not just right now, but we think about 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. That's what my job is. That's what I want you to help me out with. And please indulge yourself in all this information and work with factual information too, please.
Yes.
No kidding. Rob Hardwood, thank you so much. And hey, by the way, say hello to that lovely wife, Diana, yours for me.
All right. Thank you.
The rest of your night. Rob Hardwood, ladies and gentlemen, Director of Parks and Rec, joining us here. And now over to Cindy Schulten. I'll have the last word.
To say goodnight. You get the last word. It's your show. All I want to do is say, I think the reason why I'm even on this show tonight is because of Dan Harding and Darren Nesbit called me in to join and to talk to them about starting their Save the Jackson Pool group. They are doing the legwork to talk to the businesses in the community and fundraise. And it's conversations like this that make the entire reason why I even wanted to run for council. So I love this community involvement and engagement. It makes me feel really good. It's the right thing to do. Who knows what we're going to end up with, but we're going to make sure it's what's good for the city and what the city wants. So I thank them for all their efforts and for everybody that's been on their page. And I like this open dialogue. So if people want to find me, and I have a Facebook page, Cindy Schulten, Sarnia City Council, and my email is up on the screen there, cindy.schulten@sarnia.ca. And Dave, it was a pleasure. I know you work really hard and you're getting busier and busier, as am I, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Cindy Schulten, thank you so much for your time. And Rob's saying something, but we can't hear you anymore, Rob, because we kicked you into the lobby. So I'm sure,
I'll call him after.
Knowing Rob, it's something kind and genuine. So Cindy Schulten, thanks for your hard work as well. We'll see you next time. Well, there you go, folks. I mean, I have to say, special thank you, both of my guests there, and Beth was there earlier, and for all of you who've participated here tonight. I think it's really great that these folks took the time out of their schedule, away from their families and whatever they're doing, to be here tonight. And here's you always hear me talk, and I try not to get too emotional, but I love this city too. There's a lot of greatness in this city that I believe we're missing. And I think I hate to cliche it, but can't we all just get along and try to figure it out? And as Rob said, make the good decisions. And Cindy and Rob and all of our counselors welcome you to reach out to them. So there's an invitation there. And it's going to take time. And we're not all going to see it all. And I think one of the mistakes that we make is we start impulsively saying things or reacting to things before we breathe and take the time to get all the information. It's not all just in the media, whatever the media shares. And I'm not putting down the media by any means. They have limited amount of time to be able to put out there what's there. When you get yourself involved in your community, and believe me, there are tons of committees, including committees at City Hall. Age Friendly would be one that's, and there's a whole bunch of committees. And if you don't even know what those committees are, Cindy will find you a committee to be on. I promise you that, or somebody will find you a way. Participate. It doesn't take a lot of time, but everybody's little bit of time will change so many great things. I could probably do a whole hour show by myself just talking about what I think of the greatness of this city, but it takes all of us to make that happen. I think Jackson Pool is a great cause. I believe that Jackson Pool should be here, whatever that looks like. I'm not 100% sure just yet what that looks like, but I see something. And I see us coming together to make it happen. And when it happens, I think we'd have a great day of celebration in a location where we can bring our families together, whether it's swim or cool down or just socialize together and get to know each other again, because we're missing out on a lot. And if you don't know how to say hello to somebody, just put your hand out in front of you and walk around. Somebody will grab it. I challenge you all to seek out the greatness in each other. I thank you all so much for being here. My next show, my recorded show will be out tomorrow night. The show with David Burrows will be on tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. And next week on Live with David, we're going to have a lot of fun. We always have a good time here, and I appreciate you taking the time. And to all my guests, I'm really flabbergasted about, I feel really good how productive this conversation was tonight. Thank you all, and have a good night.